Mr. Dion Summers. How you doing, Mr. Dion? Thank you so much for coming on the show.
I'm great, man. I'm great. How are you?
I'm blessed, black, and highly favored. I appreciate your time for coming on the show today, coming talk to me today. You are an proud executive over at Sirius XM. You're a multimedia personality, former director at iHeart, and former director at Urban One. So you've been in the radio business for a very, very long time. So in honor of Black Music Month, I wanted to get your take on some things. I appreciate your time today. What first of all,
Sure.
let's start off here. What made you want to get into the radio business and the music industry?
First, I'm going to steal your blessed, black, and highly favored. That,
Well, I'm not
that-
going to take credit for that. I got that from one of my favorite radio personalities, alongside you. Now, I've been listening to you. I got Sirius in my car back in North Carolina.
Thank you.
Charlamagne the God. Charlamagne the God says that all the time. So yeah,
Good peoples. Good
yes, yes,
peoples. Good peoples
yes,
know good peoples, man.
yes.
Um, so I'll tell you, man. So my love of music really came before my love of radio. I've always loved music. I remember one of my earliest memories of music was my mother winning a radio contest,
Wow.
and she took me with her to the studio to pick up a prize, to claim her prize. And I was so young at the time. This makes no sense now, but when you're five,
Yeah.
it makes more sense. But I thought that the performers were inside the studio.
Really?
So I thought, wow, I'm going to go to this studio with my mom to pick up her prize, and I'm going to see these artists and these bands and these instruments. It's going to be great.
You had a good imagination, I see.
Right,
Yeah.
right, right. So that always so the one takeaway from that thought was that I have always wanted to pull back the curtain and see the magic of radio and how radio brings music closer to us, the fans, right?
Yeah.
I've always wanted to pull back that curtain. And so at that point, at that age, my love of music started. And, there were internships I had throughout high school
Yeah.
that kind of furthered my love of radio and the craft of radio. But it's always been my goal to kind of pull back the curtain and say, okay, why do they play these songs? Why do they say the things they say,
Yeah.
before they play the songs? Why do they play these things between the songs? Like, how can I become a part of that and influence my love of music through this curation that we call radio? So, yeah, I mean, I've always been a fan of good music, whether it was pop, rock, R&B. I was one of those multi-genre kids who, loved Run DMC as much as he loved Bon Jovi, right? Like
Okay.
I just loved and appreciated all music, and blessed to be in a career that can facilitate that.
Uh, what, how do you think radio has impacted the music business?
Wow. It's a great question. And it's a very hmm, it's a challenging question because I think radio can do a number of services for people. It can bring people closer to the artists,
Yeah.
closer to the culture than
Hmm.
they would be otherwise. I always say to my air talent that I manage that listeners like you, they love the artist. They
Mm.
like you because you bring them closer to the artist than most of them will ever get. Most people, unfortunately, will never meet Beyonce, but, when Sway interviews Beyonce, they really like Sway for bringing them closer to the people that they love. So play your position and know your position. I think that's the joy of radio. I think where the game gets a little tainted is when the business aspect of radio starts to kind of infiltrate the love of the culture, right?
Hmm.
In terms of, airplay, and we've got to play these, amount of songs every week, and we've got to play this artist, X amount of times a day because we want this artist to be at our summer jam. So we've got to support them. And, when the business of radio comes in, that's when people say things like, you guys play the same songs too much.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
guys talk too much. You know what I mean? When the business starts to come into the art, that's when you get the negativity toward the medium, right? And so I think that a skillful program director knows how to balance the business aspect and the art aspect, because you need both to have a successful radio station, but there's a balance that needs to be adhered to.
Do you like how music has changed? Because it has changed so much from the early 90s especially with Black music, since we're celebrating Black Music Month this month. How do you see the change? Do you like the change that it has impacted the business and the way we listen to music as well?
So a couple of things about that. Number one, I always have what I call the 15-year-old theory.
Okay.
When you're 15, every song you like, every TV show you like, every product that you consume is popular. Everything is geared toward a 15-year-old boy, a 15-year-old girl.
Okay.
And the further you move away from that peak, the less pop culture will sort of attach itself to you, right? You know, when you're 15 years old, every song you hear on pop radio is your favorite song. When you're 25, a little less. When you're 35, a lot less. When you're 45, a lot less than that, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So the culture is youth driven. It
Okay.
always has been. It always will be.
Okay.
Everyone that says music is trash probably is not 15 years old, because the 15-year-olds are driving the economy in terms of music, in terms of, now in terms of streams, then in terms of album sales, single sales. You know, the youth drive the culture. They
Hmm.
always have. Hell, when I was 15, there was a song that started with bum, sickety bum. Trash.
Yeah,
But I loved it because I was 15 and that's what we love. That's what we consumed. If you don't like it, you just don't get it.
yeah,
Today you got Sexy Red. You know what? If you don't like it, you just
yeah.
don't like it. It's just not for you.
Hmm.
But the ones that move the culture, they love it.
Okay.
So I think when you understand the evolution and how the culture evolves itself, you can appreciate it more. Yeah, we consume music a lot differently now than we did, but we're supposed to.
Mm.
When I first came into the business, mom and pop record stores used to literally, keep track of their sales by hand and fax those sheets, to radio stations. Like, how easy is that to manipulate, right?
Yeah.
Like it was from a real base point of consumption. You know, we've graduated from that tenfold, right? So our method of consumption was bound to evolve. And in that, there's some issues, just as if there were issues back then with sales and airplay. That there's streaming issues now. But you have a more of an accurate kind of bead of what people are listening to now. So it was bound to evolve. So similar to television and any other medium, you just got to let the medium just kind of evolve in and of itself. I can appreciate it. I'm always going to be a student of radio. So whenever, when satellite first came around, I've been at Sirius XM now for almost 19 years. When I first came on board, no one really believed in satellite. Um, but I thought there was something in it that spoke to the future of how we're going to consume, this music.
Mm.
Um, so I jumped on board. And friends at FM radio thought I was crazy. Um, they don't think that anymore. I'll just say that. But
Uh,
yeah, I'm always for evolution in this game, man.
as a music, as a radio executive at Sirius, what trends have you seen in music that has affected the culture?
So I'll begin to answer your question by letting you know this, that nothing, very little in music is new. Most everything in the culture is cyclical.
Mhm.
What was once popular will become popular again. Now, obviously, there are, there are subgenres that are popular now, that weren't around, call it 15, 20 years ago, right?
Yeah.
But the basics are there, right? The basics are always there. There's always going to be, a burgeoning hip hop star. It's always going to be an A-list hip hop star. There's always going to be a burgeoning R&B star, a burgeoning country star. Pop music will always need their white girls. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Will always need their heartthrobs. Will always need their bad boys. There's certain things that always will be consistent, right? You've got trap now, you've got drill now, like you've got certain subsets that are new, but music for the most part is cyclical. What was once popular will always come around and be popular again. So when you take a 360 look at the business that way, you can appreciate it more. Now personally, I don't have any, Taylor Swift in my personal collection, but I know what that means to the culture, right? And as much as I know what Drake means to the culture, right? So when you can appreciate those things and realize that every generation has a Drake, every generation has a Taylor, every generation has a Sexy Red, every generation has a SZA. Like when you realize that there's certain like touch points that every culture will gravitate to,
Yeah.
again, that's part of the art. I love doing the art. I have to do the business, but I
Mhm.
love the art of it because that's when you realize certain similarities that always, every generation, every decade will always repeat itself. And that's what makes this fun for me.
Can you talk about how Black artists and Black music has affected uh, you know, the way we consume music and the way the industry as a whole is run?
So for starters, we run this, right? We run this. Like it's no secret that, Black artists rule the culture. We create the language, we create the dance, we create the rhythm, the motion, the emotion. You know, I think that what has to be what we should do a better job of, and this is historic, man. We should do a better job of staking claim to what we culturally discovered, right? Taking claim to what we manifest. I mean, you can go through history, man, and see where certain Black artists weren't given the proper credit for the music that they created, and white artists were given the credit unfairly.
Yeah.
You can go back to Elvis Presley with that, and every generation has an example for that. The first hip hop album to go number one was Vanilla Ice, To the Extreme, back in 1990. You know what I mean? Like you could do this for every generation, man. Um, so I think we need to do a better job of staking claim to the music and the culture that we're responsible for. And is it on the artist? Is it on the culture? Is it on the curators? I think it's a group effort that we do this, and that's why elements like Black Music Month exist in the first place, to get on our soapbox for 30 days and say, yeah, we created this. Like, I don't think anybody would object to that, but I think that we can do a better job of exclaiming it to the masses and staking our true claim to the culture.
Where do you believe the music business is going?
Oh, that's the question. Oh, I thought that was more
Yes.
of that. Okay, that's that. Again, the answer lies in the youth. Like, full stop. You know what I mean? Like, you know, I am only as smart as the people that I choose to surround myself with in this game, right? Once upon a time there was a 23, 24-year-old program director named Dion Summers who, was so immersed in the culture that, it's ridiculous. And I'm programming music to, that my friends would want to listen to because I'm 23 years old and I work at a station that plays, current up-tempo hip hop and R&B. You know what I mean? You know, uh, I am no longer 23. I am slightly older. Um, but I make sure I surround myself with that same energy that I had and my peers had when we first came into the game, because this is a youth obsessed culture.
Yeah,
You know, the youth will always drive the culture, drive the language pathology, drive the, you know, the rhythm, drive the movement. Like I said, the motion, the emotion. So it's just important to just stay connected, because the youth will always drive the culture. And it goes for anything: movies, television, bubblegum, pizza, whatever. Like, you know, so I trust that the music universe will self-correct. You know, whenever people say, oh, hip hop is dead, or they say rock is dead, like, no, it's not. Like, it's cyclical. It's always going to be cyclical, and it'll always come back. It'll come back. You know, there'll be another, you know, Kanye, Lauryn Hill, Michael Jackson, Whitney Houston, Madonna. You can go further, all the way back. You know what I mean? Like, there are always these cultural touch points that will reinvigorate the culture. So I trust in that. You know
gotcha.
what I mean? I may personally, after we stop recording the Zoom, tell you who I think is trash, who isn't trash. But you know what? Who cares what I think? So, you know, the culture belongs to the young, man.
Yeah.
Just like,
Uh,
you know, just like I did it when I was in that demo. So I trust that the youth will self-correct the culture.
I'm gonna take a commercial break. Much more with Mr. Summers, Dion Summers, after the break. We're back here with Mr. Dion Summers of Sirius XM Radio. He's a music executive over there and a personality on The Heat here in New York City. Um, Mr. Summers, you know, you've been in the business for over 30 years. What are some advice, and you graduate from a great broadcast school in Syracuse, class of 95. Um, what are some things that you have learned in the business that you would give advice to the people who want to come into the business?
Look to every person that you come across as an opportunity. Learn as much from as many people who will impart wisdom and advice to you. I have so many mentors from my early stages of my career who I still am great friends with, who I keep in contact with to this day. Because what you'll realize, this business is small. This
Mhm.
business is tremendously small, and you're going to meet the same people throughout your entire career. I just had a Zoom meeting with a colleague that I've known and who's known me for well over 20 years. And she just popped up on my screen an hour ago, like, hey, like, you're going to meet the same people throughout your career. So take every meeting that you have with every person um, into account, and just know that, you know, you may be working for this person. This person may be working for you, which is more likely to happen. I'm more likely to ask you for a job in the next, you know, 10, 20 years than you are to ask me for a job. So when you realize that, and how small this industry is, and how much of a, you know, special fraternity, sorority, whatever this business is, it makes it easier to navigate. Because it's rare. It's really, really rare. Like, I never stopped counting my blessings in the fact that I was able to get in when I got in, because it's hard to get in. It's even harder to stay in. And once you're out, it's almost impossible to get back in. So you just really have to look at every person that you come across as a God-given opportunity to further your knowledge base of this game, and further your association with this game, because everyone is here to help you become the best person you can be in
Yeah.
this game. And when you recognize that, it doesn't feel awkward when you're like, oh, I want to call Dion and ask him, well, I saw a posting for a position, or, you know, I wanted to follow up with the question that I had for Dion. Like, do it. Like, don't overthink it. Just do it. Everybody is here to help you bring out the best in you. And I've never, you know, I've never gone against that, and I never bet against myself with that. And the people that I've gotten to know early in my career, you know, I still respect it, and I still respect them, and I still, you know, lean on them to this day.
Mr. Dion Summers, thank you so much for your time today. I greatly appreciate you coming on.
Oh, thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank
This has
you.
been dope, man.
Ho-
Anytime.
Hopefully, when you retire, I could, have your spot over at Sirius. So one day.
Hopefully, when my time at Sirius is over,
Mhm.
your assistant will take my resume
Yeah.
and grant me an interview.
Yeah.
I'm a hard worker, so please hire me.
Thank you so much for your time.
No doubt.
We'll be right back.